All right. Here with the infamous coach Dave Parker again today. We're here to share some nuggets, talk a little bit today. We're going to, I think, really hone in on, helping agents kind of get to that next step, man, because we talk to a lot of agents every single day, and the reality of the market is crazy across the board. Like, you look at across North America, the market is still on fire. Like, short listings, multiple offers, the home values going up. Like, it's crazy all the way. I mean, obviously in Canada, all the way down to Florida where you are, and across the board. So we thought we'd share a little bit today, a little bit about kind of the, how to get your buyers to, to win, or how to get them to a yes in order to win, right? How to get them and become the knowledge broker, right? So tell me, what are you seeing?
Well, it's a good question. I'm seeing, and the feedback I'm getting from about 80 clients across the country is that there is another push in buyer activity. Most markets are not seeing the multiple offer scenarios that we saw about a year ago, I guess, which is different. But the homes are not lasting long on the market either, not to contradict myself. And what I'm finding is I have to really, really focus with my clientele on making sure they're going through the right pre-qual steps, so that they're not only taking people out to see an untold number of homes, but they're conditioning people as to what it takes to win, that they, as the agent, know their market stats, they know the data, they are counseling people to win ahead of time. So I'm still seeing a lot of that, and it's fatiguing, and it can be disgruntling for agents. But in most cases, it's kind of
And
like
buyers.
definitely.
Right.
They're setting themselves up for that. So you got to be in front of it. You got to be proactive and in front of it.
Yeah, and so, like, just to be super clear, as a coach, I'm going to tell you listings are powerful. So, like, don't just go, hey, I'm just going to work with buyers. I think in today's world, we still got to go after the listings. Are going after listings hard? Sure, of course it's hard. It's we're harder.
People make it hard through a number of things they don't do.
Yeah. So, like, that's the realistic, but at the end of the day, you also win more if you do it. So I'm going to preface our conversations with that is, there's always that saying, right? Listing, what is it? Listing to last, or whatever it's called. Like, so the reality of it is, I want you to control your market by dominating the listings. That being said, someone's going to work with the buyers, and I encourage it. It's an amazing opportunity for buyers.
Yeah, I comment on that.
Yeah, of course.
Can I comment? Sorry. So here's, there's kind of two philosophies, and, our viewers may agree, may not agree. There's no right or wrong answer, but I was raised as a listing agent in this business.
Yeah.
Right. And anytime that I have to take away from prospecting, regardless of the mechanism to connect with people, phone, Zoom, FaceTime, direct message, text, whatever, as long as it's real dialogues, that to me is a big investment elsewhere. So if I'm going to work with buyers, I need buyers that are pre-approved, not pre-qualified. There is a process I follow that we can actually talk about one day to compel people to sign a loyalty agreement. I know that's a struggle for some folks. Okay. I want to know that they're ready to act now, preferably in the next 30 days. At the outside with a buyer, 45, 50 in this market, there's no point otherwise.
Yeah.
I'm going to be blunt and say I'm not a tour guide. I'm not take them for hours on end. So, et cetera. If I'm going to work with buyers, hey, the money's green. I've worked with many of them. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm selective. And I even coach some of my clients to listen, work with, you need to decide if you're going to fully commit to building a listing-based business. Now, this 22 year of 22 in the spring we're coming up to, there's a lot of potential reasons people may list their home now. I personally think it's the best opportunity in a couple of years. So it's a trade-off. And what I coach people to is work with the buyers that warrant your time, because I want you to keep your primary focus on building listing business. I want to see, and I'm not exaggerating, I want to see 10 to 20 listings on your listing board. It can be done. How does it get done? Consistency.
And here's the truth. If you can get to 10 listings on their board at any given time, what do they end up with?
Well, they end up with many things, but they can, security. they can project their finances for the next 3 to 4 months.
Consistent contracts, consistent
Yes,
closings, right? Like they don't deal in the roller coaster of real estate, because if
right.
they get that much inventory in consistently, then their inventory is more of a constant climb than it, or their finances is more of a constant climb. Their business is more of a constant climb than a roller coaster. So
Right.
let's jump into this. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to go over. I'm going to write on my board. I know I don't normally write on my board, but it just helps me. I get by on my crazy good looks, and not my able to put things together in my head. Just kidding. But I'm going to write on my board because here's the deal. Like I think everybody right now need to be meeting with buyers upfront in advance, right? So I don't care. Like, here's what I always say to people: I don't want you to do it on the phone. I want you to do it one of two ways, right? Meeting them face to face is obviously the best way to do it still in this world. But like, if you're in a kind of COVID crazy world that we're in, if not, do it in a Zoom meeting where you still have this face to face, eye to eye meeting, right? And so, we always used to have this kind of needs analysis up front, and a lot of us always focused on the what, like, what is it that they want to buy, right? What is it? It could be, focusing on the where. And, while that is important, in my opinion right now, because there's a lack of inventory, it's not as important as this. And it's the why are they buying? Because you said it, right? We got to make sure that we're working with the motivated, and the only way that you're going to drive down to the motivated is finding exactly why they're buying.
I mean, is there merit in going back to the age-old original buyer qualification scripts? I mean, do we need to do that today?
Sure. Well, I mean,
Why?
again, clarity's power, man. Clarity's power, right? And
Right,
so,
because people don't change, right?
no,
People don't change. The environments change. So we need to follow the process to protect our interests and protect their interests and our
yeah,
times.
yeah. So clarity is power, and the more clear we are with helping them, the better we are. So like all of that, like listen, all of those old age scripts, all of the old needs analysis, obviously is super important. Here's what I'm going to add to that, because I think in this market we need to add a couple of other things, and I always say it is the 5 conversations we need to have with our buyers up front. And I'll go through the 5, and David, you can give me feedback on the 5. So I'm going to start with this, right? So the 5 conversations that we need to be having with buyers up front. Number 1 is the understanding that they need to put in their best offer first, right? They need to be putting in their best offer first. Why? Like, why is it important for them to be putting in their best offer first?
You're not going to get a second chance in most
You're
cases.
not going to get a second chance, right? So if you're working with a buyer, man, like we need to make sure that we're having that conversation with, and it would go like this: David, listen, I know that I want you to get the best house and the best value and all of that, but here's what I don't want to happen. I don't want us to put in an offer on a house and find out that we lost the house to someone who paid $3,000, and that you look at me and go, I wish I would have known that because I would have put $3,000 more into it. Right? That's a painful conversation, right? And so I want to make sure that you understand it's really important that you pull out everything to put in your best offer first.
Yeah, and I mean, this is just my style. Maybe I'm a ratios guy, but 3,000 on a $600,000 buy is for 1/2 point more you would have won.
Yeah,
Half point
right.
sounds like a lot less than $3,000.
Yep. And it's so important because buyers still have this mindset of going in and wanting to negotiate. And matter of fact, I say buyers, but there's way too many agents out there that have that same mindset as well. Still, like that are saying, well, we want to leave room for negotiation, and that's not the market we're in today, right? That's not the market. So I'm going to move on to number 2, just for the sake of time, because I don't want to keep us on here
Sure.
all day long. But
I'm taking notes, Coach. What do you got?
All right, cool. Well, no, I just, this is kind of my message to a lot of the teams. Like, I mean, I coach a lot of big teams, and this is the message that I'm bringing to those teams, right? It is helping them this year work truly, it sounds terrible, but work with less buyers, but close more deals, right? Work with less buyers, because we need to make sure that they're working with the buyers that are going to be willing to do what it takes to win, right? And so
being selective about the buyers that you're working
exactly
with.
what you said. Yeah. Yep.
Higher
Exactly what you said.
conversion ratio to close.
Yep. Yep. So number two is sitting and over analyzing the purchase price. Like, let's
Is
have
this
that
number
conversation.
3 actually, Chair?
No, that's number two. Putting in their
Okay.
best offer first, over
Okay.
analyzing their purchase price.
Okay.
Right? Stay with me, David Parker. Stay with me.
I thought the second was work with less buyers and close more.
Oh,
Sorry.
no. That's just part of the
Just a
goal of this
footnote.
conversation, right? So,
Okay.
because here's the truth. When are people in today's world paying more for homes than what they are valued at today?
Yes. Well, one would say so when they're paying above appreciated value. I think yes.
And so that's the reality of our market. So, but here's the truth. If a buyer is willing to pay more for a home, what's that new value tomorrow? What's that new comparison that's created tomorrow?
Okay, so I'm going to chime in here. So
Yeah.
I love that comment, because the vast number of people out there don't understand that homes are commodities and how their prices go up and down, right? You'll never buy a stock at the lowest low, and you'll never sell it at the highest high. And okay, so maybe you pay 1% more or 2% more than the appraised value. But this is why you need to be a student of math and your market stats. Because if you're not flipping the property and you're going to be in there for 6 to 8 years, and today's buyers statistically are staying 10 plus, you're going to ride waves out. So it becomes a moot point. And then I go back, and we get so hung up on the numbers with people, we forget about the emotional reasons that people make decisions to move forward. People decide emotionally, they validate logically. How long have you been looking for? How important is it for you and the kids to be near mom and dad in their senior years, et cetera? How long have you been putting this off? What difference will it make in your lives?
Yeah. And if we sit here and we overanalyze all of that, then we are going to lose, right? So, and it comes back
to, then we fall back to, the skill sets of most realtors, because at the end of the day, the true sales professional understands the psychology and the language of sales and the personalities of the people they're talking to.
Okay. And Dave, that's a perfect lead into number 3. And number 3 is make sure that they're working with an experienced knowledge broker, right? And so, back to what you just said, that knows how, that has the skills in closing, and that also studies the market numbers, right? And so you need to make sure that you're having that up front and in advance, because here's the reality of a buyer. If you aren't getting a buyer into a home, and the buyer sees an opportunity to work with another agent that's going to get him into a home quickly, what do you think is going to happen?
You're going to lose them.
You're going to lose that buyer, right? So you have to clarify up front in advance. Working with you is super important, because I'm a knowledge broker and I have the skills to close, and I also know the numbers. I know what it looks like, and I'm going to share that with you. So winning with me is super important because of that.
Yeah.
Right? Working with experience or working with knowledge is super key, right? And one of my clients said, that's so buyers don't cheat on you. And the truth is, that is so buyers don't cheat on you, right? Because in this market, the buyers just want a house. And I'd love to say that buyers are going to be absolutely loyal to you. They will not be loyal to you unless they look at you as a key piece of them getting a home, right? And so being that experienced knowledge broker, puts you in a position where you become that key piece.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Well, which also, if I may, just doubling back, not too much, but what are your points of differentiation? Why should they work with you? I mean, to just say, I'll work really hard, I'll do my best, I'll be really patient. That's what everybody else is saying. Yeah. What's the added value you're bringing? What are the premium services every good buyer or broker should bring? What are you doing to find inventory that's off-market inventory? What do you do that's unique? What's the added value in terms of guarantees of negotiations or enhancements to the home, prep, a home appliance warranty, attorney services if needed? What makes you different?
Your degree of separation. What's your degree of separation?
Yeah. I mean, I'm working with 9 other buyers, Mr. Realtor. Buyer agents. I've met them all online. Why should I work exclusively with you?
Yeah. Yep. And having that conversation. And this is why having this conversation up front in advance, because most of them are meeting them at the first home and walking them through their home and being a home guide rather than, rather than, helping
You mean when
someone
they're walking through with the MLS sheet in their hand, reading
yeah,
about it
for the
as they're
first time.
walking through for
Yeah,
the
for the
first time?
first time. Yeah, yeah,
Never heard
yeah,
of
yeah.
that before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Number 4 is understanding in this market. So understanding your pre-qualification letter from the bank, right? Understanding that, because when a
Or
buyer
pre-approved.
or pre-approved, yeah, whatever you want to call it, because a buyer is getting, a pre-approval from a bank, and what's that buyer doing right out of the gate? Like a buyer gets a pre-approval for 350. What's he doing?
They're looking for a 350.
Man, they're jumping on whatever. I don't care whether it's your personal website as an agent, whether it's Zillow, whether
Or they're
it's
starting their
any other
search.
search. Yeah, they're looking, they're going online looking for 350 if we're lucky. If not, they're looking at 360, 375, and then bringing him to you and going, this is what I want to look at. And then we're wasting our time showing those homes, because then they come in and they go, oh, we've got multiple offers, or it's going for well over asking, and they aren't even in that race.
2 quick points. One, statistically speaking, most people will attempt to buy as much home as they're approved to buy, spend the money. 2, to your point, got to be careful, because if you're in a market which is a very short market and you're still experiencing multiple bids, et cetera, and you're approved for 350, maybe you should be shopping at 320 so you can win at 350.
So that's the conversation. What you just said at the very end is the conversation. So, Mr. Buyer, I definitely know you're approved for 350, and that's incredible. In order for you to win in this market, I need you to go online and search between 315 and 325 at the max, so that when we get to the table, we can compete to win that. Right? Because there's nothing worse. Like, David, there's nothing worse than someone going on and looking at a $400,000 home, bringing him to you when they really qualify for 350, and they go, oh, wait, the 350 homes aren't near as nice as the 400, and you're going, well, yeah, like that's the way it is. But it causes discouragement in the buyer, and our goal is to create opportunity for encouragement, not discouragement.
So you just made something flash in my head, which is why one of the pre-qual items you need to establish is what are your non-negotiables.
Yeah.
Because you may want the bigger square footage home, but in the city, you're lucky. There's a big price difference between Boca Raton and Deerfield Beach.
Yep.
Are you willing to trade off? What are the trade-offs? What are the non-negotiables? Get that clear up front.
Absolutely. Like we talked about in the beginning, clarity is power, right? And so the last one, and again, depending on what market you're in, but the last one is getting them to understand, I'm going to call it, for the sake of our conversations, bidding wars. I don't suggest you use that language with your clients, because again, bidding wars has this negative connotation. But I would, you could call it multiple offers, all of that. But for our sake, you want to prepare them for that, because how many buyers have walked away from homes that they like because they didn't want to be in a bidding war? Right. And so that conversation, as far as I'm concerned, that conversation goes as simple as this. Hey, Dave, listen, we're in a really competitive market, and there's a good chance that there's going to be other people that love the home that you love. So that's the case, there's probably going to be multiple people wanting to buy that home. Does that make sense? Yeah. So all I'm going to ask you to do is, I'm going to ask you just to put your best offer first. As long as you put your best offer first, then listen, then we come out of that, whether we win or whether we lose, we went all in, like your shirt says, right? We went all in, and there's nothing, we can't hold back from that. And the second thing is that we're not overanalyzing the purchase price.
So it's, to your point, something else as we wrap here, I'm assuming, is you got to recognize that different people have different tolerances of stress. Some people would detest a bidding war. Other people like, bring it, let's go. You've got to talk to people, get to know what their psychology is, and condition them. Just like when you put a seller under contract, it's not over. We still have to get past inspection, appraisal, and financing. I want you to put some money aside because something will come up in the inspection. Nobody's wrong with that kind of conditioning, but with buyers.
Yeah, 100%, right? Because we want to set them up to win. And then we also need to make sure that our buyers understand that they may lose some deals. Because again, a lot of us are dealing with buyers that get discouraged because they've lost a couple of deals, and then they step back and they go, maybe now is not the time to buy. As a real estate agent, now is the time to buy. It's just that they've got to be prepared mentally for the game that's being played right now in real estate. And the game being played right now in real estate, they got to be prepared to lose a couple. This is all I say to them is, listen, if you're being prepared to lose a couple, what I want you not to do is I don't want you to not make the same mistakes over and over again, right? So if you're going in and you're making mistakes in your offers, don't do that again. We see buyers so often that.
What do you do with the buyers who keep doing that, though, Jared? You know they want to buy, they're pre-approved, yet they just can't break out of that pattern. How long do you stay with buyers like that? When do you walk away?
You know, there's a point at which I think that if they're going to keep making that mistakes, that you use that and we use a takeaway close with them. Right. So listen, Mr. Buyer, what I notice you're doing is you keep making the same mistakes. Remember when we met up front in advance and I said, if we start losing deals, you can't make the same mistakes over and over again. We're getting into that pattern. So it appears that you're not seriously wanting to buy. And if we aren't willing to change our strategies, then I'm not sure that you're going to ever win. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
It's a takeaway.
The same way that if you're working with a seller, who they just consistently won't negotiate the deal, let alone price right.
Yep.
I don't know if you could price wrong in today's market, but let's go with it.
You can.
Right? Yeah. At what point are you just going to cut them loose and not grovel or be upset about losing the commission, which you shouldn't be, because if you wrote your business plan, you should only be planning on closing 80 to 90% of your listings, keeping your focus on keeping your pipeline full so you can tolerate that.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah. Putting yourself on a higher level, your time is super, super valuable.
Yeah. And so
we're not servants to people. We are of service, though. We need to be selective. Go.
Yeah. And listen, the biggest mistakes that agents make in the very beginning with buyers is they aren't creating enough clarity of what they do, what sets them apart from other people, what the buyers want. Versus what they need, and ultimately what it takes now to win in this market. And if we don't have clarity upfront in advance, then this is the deal. We are explaining the process to them at the wrong time. We're ready to put an offer in, and they're not willing to put their best offer in. And here's the thing: if they're not prepared to move fast because they're ready to roll, they're going to lose. And so this is to get them to move fast.
And tying it. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say most agents are afraid to push their clients to move fast because agents don't want to feel like, oh, I don't want to be too salesy.
Or
and
lead their clients. And you're pushing them if you're telling them, you're leading, if you're asking questions and educating them. And you will never, ever, ever have as good of an opportunity as you do at the onset of your relationship.
100%.
Otherwise, you're doubling back. And that's not any fun.
Yeah, and they believe in you in the beginning. The more homes that they lose, or the more homes, then that's getting down and down and down. So if you're having this conversation up front, then that you're creating that relationship and you're cementing that relationship, in my opinion. So
totally.
All right. Anything else to add to this, David? I know we are like.
No, I thought this was I hope our viewers thought this was one of our better little podcasts here. I thought this was dynamic. Guys, listen to this again. Write down those 5. Look at them every day. Memorize them. Make them your standard. Keep your focus on lead generating for listings.
Be intentional about your conversations and don't just, jump into them and work with buyers by default.
Meander through it. The best, the most successful realtors, they still follow scripts. No, it's not canned. No, it's not mechanical. But if you can internalize those questions, they flow. If you know your market data, if you understand the psychology and strategies we're talking about, you're going to be so much more ahead of the game. And you'll provide your clientele perceives service and value that the others don't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you took something out of it. And David, I appreciate you being on with me.
You, brother.
I think we, again, we're of like mind. So, I appreciate you being here and all the value that you bring the agency you work with. So we will chat with you on the next call.